Good morning, students. Welcome back to Atmiya Green School. I'm Afrin Sayed, your English teacher. And students, as we have seen that our section 2 says nature's bounty, which means that our chapters are basically based on nature. And we saw that the story of Amber Beads was based on nature, and it shows that how nature turned those beads, those necklaces, and then we learned about the cherry tree, which shows, which compares the life of human being with the changing nature and growing tree. Now we have the third poem, which is on the grasshopper in the cricket, which is written by John Keats, and this is also based on nature. It is also talking about the nature. Before we start with the summary, before we start learning the poem, or before we start reciting the poem, I would like to request you to get a textbook from your place so that it is easier for you to recite. Please get your textbook, students. Now open page number 58, your textbook New Pathways, page number 58, section 3 on the grasshopper and the cricket. The poetry of earth is never dead. When all the birds are faint with the hot sun and hide in cooling trees, a voice will run from hatch to hatch about the newborn meat. That is the grasshopper's, he takes the lead. In summer luxury he has never done with his delights, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. The poetry of earth is ceasing never on a lone wintry May, when the frost has wrought a silence from stove the shrills. The cricket's song in a warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost. The grasshoppers among some grassy hills. Poem by John Keats. Here the mead means meadows. Here the mead means meadows. And ceasing means ending. Ceasing means ending. Brought means to produce. Brought means to produce. Now students, I would like to give you introduction about the poem, a kind of short summary about the poem. So here, our poem on the grasshopper in the story is not a story poem. Here the two characters, grasshopper and cricket, are being used, where grasshopper is a symbol of summer and cricket is a symbol of cold winter. Now students, if you can remember, or if you can feel that during summer we don't like to move out, we generally like to stay inside our homes, because when we go out we find that um, it is very much hot over there, and we feel very much tired, and sometimes it also sometimes take away a lot of energy from us, as we sweat a lot during that period. And during summer it is not that advisable to move out in a hot sun. Okay, so what are we doing mostly? We usually stay at home as much as possible. Okay, and when we move out of our houses and when we found that it's very hot and we are not able to absorb the heat, then we find a shade under the tree or any shading area, and over there we just try to have the feeling of relief, which gives us some peace. Okay, so here it is said that the earth is always singing, but the birds stop singing in hot summer. They seem to have fainted in the hot sun. So usually birds keep singing, but in hot summer they stop singing due to the hotness of the sun, and they hide themselves in the cooling trees, just like we hide ourselves in our homes. We hide ourselves inside our houses. They hide themselves inside the cooling trees. But there is one person. There is one bird. There is one insect, sorry student, that is grasshopper, which you can see flying from hatch to hatch and singing delightfully. Okay, Now he don't have any effect of sun. He is not afraid of the hot sun, and he keeps flying from hedge to hedge and keeps singing in the very much delightfulness. When he gets tired, he rests beneath some reed. Now we have the another part of the story, poem which is about the winter. Now winters, as we know, winters are very much cozy. Uh, we love winters, of course. Winter is my personal favorite season after rainy season, as I love rainy season. Just like that, I love the winter. I always wait winter to come so that I can take out my hoodies and my jackets and my sweaters, my shawls, and I can match them with my daily routine outfits and enjoy the coziness within those woolen clothes. That it is very difficult to wake up early morning in during winters, as winter mornings are very much freshening and cool, and we like to sleep peacefully inside our blankets. Students, if I remember in my childhood days when my mother used to wake me up for school, for early morning school, I was like, please 5 minutes more, 5 minutes more. I would like to enjoy the sleep within my blanket. So winters are usually like when even when we move out of our houses, we find the fog all over it, and when we speak, the kind of smoke comes out from our mouth, and it is very much refreshing when we rub our hands together to feel the warmth or to feel the warmness of the climate. Uh, because while rubbing the hands, the friction is created, which gives a warmth to the body in that wintry mornings and the frost cooling mornings. So here, the birds are silent in very cold winters too. Then the earth expresses its pleasure through different beings. On a frosty winter day, there seems to be utter silence. Then suddenly the silence is broken, not from the trees but from the stones. So how does it happen? Now the silence in the winter is not broken from the trees, but is broken from the stones. It is a song of a cricket. The song seems to be increasing in the warmth every moment. The people hear it in their houses. To someone half asleep, it may seem to the grasshopper songs coming from the grassy hills. So this was a short summary about the poem. Uh, I hope you would have enjoyed it. Now, to understand it in more detail, we'll move towards and the poem and learn it in a more better way. But before that, students would like to see that I'll play the video for you, and along with the video, I'll go on explaining you the terms and things. And the video is very comprehensive, which will be very much helpful to you to understand the poem in a very deep sense and a better way. Okay.
A poem by John Keats. Setting of the poem. The mood of the poem is joyous. The poem seeks to celebrate the calls of the grasshopper and the cricket, in short, the voice of nature herself. The setting is almost luxurious, as in it celebrates all phases of nature.
Yes, students, the mood of the poem is very joyous, like it is very much joyous, and it is a very happy moment, happy time. The poet seeks to celebrate the calls of the grasshopper and cricket. So the voice and the calls of the grasshopper and cricket is being celebrated by the poem. It is a kind of like we celebrate various festivals, just like that. He's celebrating the call of grasshopper and cricket by the nature. In short, the voice of nature herself. The setting is almost luxurious, as in it celebrate all the phases of nature.
Summary.
Now, octave. You can see the heading octave. Octave means lines of the poems are known as octave. The first 8 lines of the poems are known as octave. I'll read it for you first. The poetry of earth is When all the birds are faint with the hot sun and hide in cooling trees, a voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. Mead means meadow. That is the grasshoppers, he takes the lead. In summer luxury, he is never done with his delight, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease with, with beneath some pleasant weed.
Octave. The poetry of earth is never dead when all the birds are faint with the hot sun and hide in cooling trees. A voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. That is the grasshopper's. He takes the lead. In summer luxury he has never done with his delights, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. This poem is not separated into stanzas. It is separated into an octave and a sestet.
Yes, this poem is not separated in stanzas like we usually have. The paragraphs which are made in the poem are known as stanzas, but here it is separated into octave and sestet. So, octave and sestet. Octave means the first 8 lines of the sonnet. Sonnet is a type of a poem. So, the first 8 lines of the poem is known as octave, and the last 6 lines of the poem are known as sestet. The first 8 lines of the poems are known as octave, and the last 6 lines are known as sestet.
The first part of the poem, the octave, celebrates the earth in all its forms. It says that the poetry of earth is never dead. The earth provided poetry in the form of the songs of the birds or the call of the beasts. However, when the summer sun is too hot and strong, the birds find it difficult to keep up their routine. They find shelter from the scorching heat in trees that provide ample shade and hence are cooling.
Yes, the first part of the poem says that it is celebrated. He says that while there is a hot summer, usually the birds try to hide themselves from the sun, and they get that shade and they hide themselves inside their homes. That is basically their trees.
But the grasshopper does not cease its song. Its voice runs throughout the freshly mown meadows untiringly. Even in the sultry
Yes, but there is insect, that is grasshopper, who is not tired. He does not stop singing the song. He goes on singing without getting tired all throughout the summers.
summer days, he never stops his chants. The grasshopper does not feel faint under the sun. For him, even the summer is a time for joy. Hence, when he has had his fill of fun, he finds comfort under some weeds or some long grass stalks. Summary, sestet. The poetry of earth is ceasing never. On a lone winter evening when the frost has wrought a silence from the stove, there shrills the cricket song, in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshoppers among some grassy hills.
Yes, the sestet, that is last 6 lines of the poem. The poetry of earth is ceasing never. On a lone winter evening, when the frost has brought the silence from the stove, there shrills the cricket's song in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshopper among some grassy hills. Which means,
The sestet begins with the earlier declaration that the poetry of earth is forever. It is never ending.
indeed, the poetry of earth is forever. It never ends. Okay, so even during the hot summers or during the cold wintry evenings, it goes on.
During the cold, harsh winters, when one is numbed by the cold, only one voice is heard that calls out to one in drowsy evenings by the fire, that is the stove, and that is the cricket. The
Yes, so during those cold winters when everything is silent and drowsy evening, Now here they says that bird that calls out to one in drowsy evenings by the fire stove, that is cricket. So there comes a cricket, and the poet tells us that during winters, instead of growing quite due to cold, the cricket finds some corner inside the kitchen that is between the bells of the stoves and in stones, and he starts his mingles and he starts singing. Okay, basically in Hindi, crickets are basically kasari. You would have heard them. सो जो बहुत बहुत गंदा सा तेज एकदम आवाज करती है और जो आपके कान में लगता है, ठीक है, उसे हम बोलते हैं क्रिकेट. सो दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट क्रिकेट.
Poet tells us that during the winters, instead of growing quiet of the cold, the cricket finds a corner in some kitchen near a stove and bells out its song. The warmth coming from the stove mingles with the warm tones of the cricket, who tries to keep one entertained. This song perhaps reminds one who's half asleep that the grasshopper is probably out on some grassy hill, singing his heart out.
Yes, he is somewhere, grasshopper is somewhere possibly on the grassy hills, and who is singing his heart out.
Central idea. The central idea of the poem is tenacity of the grasshopper and the cricket to provide us entertainment and joy to us through their respective songs. Their songs are the poetry of earth, poetry that never ceases to be, even during extreme circumstances.
Yes, their voices, their songs are basically poetry to the earth, and the poetry which does not even get stopped, or which is not even uh, stopped or sung, um, stop getting sung during the extreme nature circumstances, that during extreme cold nights or extreme cold days or extreme hotness, they keeps on going.
Theme. Nature.
The main theme of the poem is nature. I have already discussed at the very initial
Nature is the
period
major
where I was discussing about the summary and I was discussing about the poem. I already discussed that the main theme of the poem is nature.
theme in this sonnet. Nature is seen as a revered figure throughout this poem. It is not difficult to trace the influence the natural world has on Keats as one reads this poem. The first line begins with the declaration that the poetry of earth is never dead.
Yes, why the first line says the poetry of earth is never dead, which means that whatever the situations are, whatever the circumstances are, whatever the season is, the nature does not stop it. The nature keeps on singing, like cricket and grasshopper keeps on singing their songs. So whatever the situation is, the poetry of earth is never dead.
This declaration is followed by Keats trying to explain why not. In the course of 14 lines, Keats alludes to birds, the sun, trees, hedges, meadows, frost and grassy hills. All of the aforementioned are popular motifs of a nature poem. Keats doesn't end here. He alludes to some of these motifs along with their inherent qualities or their purposes. For example, he alludes to the heat of the sun, the cool shade provided by the trees, or the pleasantness of a certain area of grass or weed. Last but not the least, Keats uses the grasshopper and the cricket as the symbols of summer and winter, respectively.
Yes, he used the inheritance, he used the cool shades of the trees which are used by various birds and insects to live. And he says that grasshopper and crickets are the symbols for summer and winter. Like grasshopper is a symbol of summer and cricket is a symbol of winter.
Seasons. Summer and winter are seen as two parallel peers who sustain the natural world. Keats posits them side by side as two parameters against which all the cycles of the natural world has to be tested. After thus putting nature through the test, Keats concurs that grasshopper and the cricket are the ones that can overcome all Hope. Both the grasshopper and the cricket are symbols of hope. They continue in their daily rituals even when other creatures cannot. They provide everyone with the hope that no matter how hard the situation is, there is always a way to overcome them. The
Yes,
grasshopper takes rest in some pleasant weed to
one of the most important thing we have to learn in our life is never getting out of hope. We should always keep a hope that even if today the days are not well, and if today the days are hard, difficult, but we'll never. This is not going to last forever. This is not going to stay forever. Someday that will end. Someday the new morning will arise. Like students, we are today we are facing very tough situation where mm, we are seeing around difficult times around us, but we should know that uh, we should pray to God and we should have a hope that someday it will get over and every morning will be regular regular morning or some you can say casual or something which we are used to, like we'll go to our workplaces, we'll meet our friends, we'll meet our families without wearing masks, without applying sanitizers, and we can hug our dear ones, we'll be able to shake hands with them, and there will be a good pleasant situation. So the hope should never die. So no matter how hard the difficult time is, we will come out of it, we'll face it with all our strengths, and one day it will turn out best.
freshen itself so that it can provide the poetry of earth for the entire natural world to listen. The cricket finds its voice in the midst of frost when the whole of creation finds itself silenced. Thus, hope is what constitutes the poetry of the earth. Tenacity. The grasshopper and the cricket also symbolize tenacity. In spite of extreme temperatures, they refuse to give up.
The tolerance is very high, that even in hot summers and even in the frosty winters, they don't give up, they keep up with the nature and they keep on going with their habits.
They carry on their jobs as if the summer heat or the winter frost cannot stop their joy.
Like students, we know that how difficult our times are during this pandemic situation, but still your teachers are working hard, they are making, though we are not able to meet physically, but we are making videos and we are trying to give you PDF files and we are trying to conduct your online exams, and you sitting at home giving a warmness in your houses to your parents and studying with the help of the gadgets you have in your houses. So we are having, even the situation is half very difficult, we are tolerating everything which is going on and we are not giving up, we are continuing what should be going on around us.
Even when the birds faint due to the heat, or all the creatures retire to their nests and or shelter to escape the cold, the grasshopper and the cricket take it upon themselves to keep the poetry of earth alive.
Yes, rather than all other birds and insects which go and hide in their holes, who are going and hiding inside those inside their shelters. The cricket and grasshopper don't give up. They comes out and they keep the poetry of earth alive.
Thus, this poem talks of tenacity and dedication to pursue one's passion. Beauty. Beauty is perhaps one of the most used themes in Keats' poetry. He was an ardent believer of beauty in its classical sense. More often than not, Keats used the beauty of language to express the beauty of nature. In this poem, the poet expresses the beauty of nature through its various phases. He finds beauty in the harsh as well as the mellow side of nature. He finds beauty in both the hot summer sun and the cool shade provided by the trees.
Indeed, nature is one of the most beautiful gifts given by God to us, and the beauty of the nature can never be questioned.
Similarly, the winter has its own beauty, as the frost spins a silence upon the earth. He also talks of the warmth in the voice of the cricket that compensates the numbness of the cold.
Yes, he says that during those frosty winters, the voice of the cricket compensates by giving the warmness to the frost.
The beauty of nature lies in its balance.
Yes, the beauty of nature lies in the balance. Just like before, they said that during the hot summers, he finds the beauty. Mm, by as trees are compensating those hot climate. Trees help us to compensate the hotness by giving the cool and shady shade. Whereas during the winters, the voice of the cricket is giving numbness, is giving warmness, and compensating the cold.
On the earth. He also talks of the warmth in the voice of the cricket that compensates the numbness of the cold. The beauty of nature lies in its balance. Tone. The tone of the poem is celebratory. Keats uses his language skills to perpetuate the romantic ideals in this poem. The poem reeks of romantic touch of grandeur, and it almost reads like an ode on the natural language of the earth. Conclusion. The poem is then a message close to Keats' heart. He believed in the immortality of poetry, beauty, and endurance of life. Keats welds together all these components in this sonnet as an inspiration to his readers and perhaps to future poets like him.
Okay, so here we come to an end with the poem The Grasshopper and the Cricket. I hope students you understood it well and I was making sense throughout the poem. So before I end this session with the summary and explanation, um, I have already gone through the poem. I have read the poem for you. I have explained the entire poem, and after that, I have even mm, make you see the video. And along with the video, I go on explaining that what does the poet means and how does the theme moves around the nature. Now I would like to make you hear the sound of crickets, just a part of activity kind of thing. So I'll show you a video where the cricket is making noise. Students, you can see. Now I'll play the sound for you. This kind of sound cricket makes, and or this kind of. Now here you can see here is the grasshopper, and this kind of sound grasshopper makes. So students, I hope you would have understood it well. And if you have any doubt, you can see the video again and please read the poem. I have sent you a PDF of your previous two chapters. I request you to write those chapters in your notebook. Okay. Thank you so much, students. Have a very good day. Stay safe and happy.